If ancient technology, forgotten civilizations, and discoveries that challenge everything we thought we knew fascinate you, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because today's story begins with a corroded lump of bronze pulled from the bottom of the Mediterranean and ends with artificial intelligence uncovering patterns that continue to puzzle researchers around the world. In the spring of 1901, sponge divers working near the small Greek island of Antikythera stumbled upon the remains of an ancient Roman shipwreck resting more than 50 meters beneath the sea. At first, the discovery seemed like countless others from the ancient world. Marble statues, pottery, jewelry, coins, and fragments of everyday cargo lay scattered across the seabed. Archaeologists believed they had found another remarkable but familiar archaeological site. No one imagined that hidden among the broken artifacts was an object that would eventually become one of the greatest technological mysteries in human history. Covered in thick layers of corrosion, it looked like nothing more than a damaged piece of bronze. Museum workers nearly overlooked it entirely. But when the crust slowly began to crack apart, tiny bronze gears appeared inside. Not one or two gears, but dozens of precisely manufactured components fitted together with astonishing accuracy. At first, experts could hardly believe what they were seeing. According to everything historians understood about ancient engineering, machinery, this sophisticated, simply should not have existed more than 2,000 years ago. For decades, the mechanism defied explanation. X-ray imaging revealed an intricate network of interlocking gear wheels unlike anything previously discovered from the ancient world. The more researchers studied it, the stranger it became. Tiny inscriptions covered many of the surviving surfaces. Hidden dials appeared beneath broken plates. Some gears contained tooth counts so mathematically precise that engineers suspected they had been designed using advanced astronomical knowledge. The obvious question quickly emerged. Who built this extraordinary machine and why? Early theories varied wildly. Some believed it was an astronomical calculator. Others suggested it predicted eclipses. A few even proposed that it functioned as an educational model, demonstrating the movement of heavenly bodies. Each explanation solved part of the mystery while creating new questions. The greatest obstacle was the mechanism's condition. Nearly two-thirds of the original device had disappeared forever. Many gears were broken. Others had completely dissolved after centuries beneath the sea. Critical sections were simply missing. Trying to understand the machine was like attempting to reconstruct an entire watch after recovering only half its gears. Every new interpretation depended on educated guesses about parts that no longer existed. Over the following decades, increasingly advanced technologies examined the surviving fragments. High-resolution X-rays penetrated the corroded metal. Three-dimensional surface scanners revealed inscriptions invisible to the naked eye. Powerful imaging techniques allowed scientists to digitally separate overlapping components without physically dismantling the fragile artifact. Each technological leap revealed remarkable new details, yet the complete picture remained frustratingly incomplete. Then researchers introduced something entirely different into the investigation: artificial intelligence. Unlike previous computer programs that simply measured dimensions or enhanced photographs, modern AI systems excel at recognizing complex relationships hidden across enormous amounts of incomplete information. Researchers fed the system thousands of images, gear measurements, inscription fragments, astronomical calculations, and mechanical simulations collected over decades of research. Instead of asking the AI to identify individual components, they challenged it with a far more ambitious question. Based on everything currently known, what is the most likely way the missing portions of the mechanism originally functioned? At first, the system behaved exactly as expected. It reconstructed damaged gear arrangements already proposed by previous research teams. Its predictions closely matched accepted engineering models, reassuring scientists that the algorithms were working correctly. Then something unexpected happened. The AI repeatedly suggested that several surviving gears interacted in ways previous reconstructions had never considered. Initially, researchers assumed the software had simply optimized mathematically elegant solutions that ancient engineers could never have built. But after checking the surviving fragments again, they noticed tiny alignment marks previously dismissed as accidental damage. Suddenly, those markings appeared consistent with the AI's proposed configuration. The discovery did not prove the reconstruction was correct, but it raised an uncomfortable possibility. Had generations of researchers unknowingly interpreted certain components from the wrong perspective? To test the idea, engineers built detailed digital models using both the traditional reconstruction and the AI-generated version. They then simulated astronomical cycles visible from the Mediterranean more than 2,000 years ago. Surprisingly, the AI model consistently produced slightly more accurate long-term predictions for several celestial events, while requiring fewer mechanical assumptions about missing parts. Nobody claimed the machine had become more advanced overnight. Rather, the AI had identified a configuration that appeared both mechanically simpler and astronomically more elegant. That result immediately attracted attention from historians of science. If correct, it suggested the original designers possessed an even deeper understanding of mathematical engineering than previously believed. Yet the biggest surprise was still waiting. Hidden within thousands of lines of reconstructed inscription text, the AI detected recurring linguistic patterns that seemed to group certain mechanical functions together in a way no human researcher had previously recognized. The machine might not have been a collection of separate astronomical calculators at all. It may have operated as one fully integrated computational system whose true sophistication had remained hidden. Not because the evidence was missing, but because no one had ever analyzed all of it simultaneously. And when researchers examined what those patterns appeared to describe, even the most experienced historians admitted they were looking at something far more remarkable than they had expected. The possibility was astonishing, but the researchers immediately reminded themselves of an important rule. Artificial intelligence does not discover history. It discovers patterns. Those patterns still have to survive the scrutiny of archaeology, engineering, linguistics, and mathematics. Even so, what the system had identified was difficult to ignore. Instead of treating every surviving gear as an isolated component, the AI suggested that the entire mechanism should be understood as one coordinated computational device. Every dial influenced another. Every gear ratio appeared connected to multiple astronomical cycles simultaneously. In other words, the machine may have been far more integrated than anyone had imagined. Engineers decided to test this theory in the most practical way possible. Using ultra-precise digital models, they recreated the surviving fragments exactly as they exist today. Then allowed the AI to predict the dimensions of the missing gears based only on known engineering constraints. The software wasn't instructed to invent new technology. It could only use tooth counts, surviving axle positions, bronze thickness, and the physical space available inside the mechanism. After thousands of simulations, several completely independent AI models began producing remarkably similar reconstructions. That consistency surprised even the developers. Normally, incomplete archaeological objects generate countless equally plausible solutions. Here, however, the possible arrangements quickly narrowed until only a handful remain mechanically viable. Researchers built working virtual versions of each reconstruction and compared their outputs against ancient astronomical observations visible from the eastern Mediterranean. One model consistently performed better than the rest. It accurately tracked the phases of the moon, predicted eclipse cycles, synchronized lunar months with the solar year, and even reproduced planetary motions with an efficiency that required fewer gears than many previous human reconstructions. Nothing about the calculations violated ancient Greek mathematics. In fact, they demonstrated exactly the opposite. Whoever designed the mechanism appeared to understand geometry, ratios, and precision engineering at an extraordinary level. Then historians noticed another remarkable detail. Several surviving inscriptions weren't simple labels describing individual dials. Their grammatical structure suggested they functioned more like operating instructions, guiding the user through a sequence of calculations rather than explaining separate instruments. If that interpretation is correct, the Antikythera mechanism was not merely displaying astronomical information, it was processing it step by step, almost like a mechanical program. That realization changed the conversation entirely. For decades, the device had often been described as the world's first analog computer. Now, researchers began asking whether that comparison might actually underestimate its sophistication. Unlike modern computers, it processed no electricity, contained no electronic circuits, and relied entirely on bronze gears. Yet its internal logic appeared carefully organized to solve multiple interconnected mathematical problems simultaneously. Some engineers compared its design philosophy to an algorithm translated into rotating wheels and precisely cut teeth. Artificial intelligence also revealed something unexpected about the craftsmanship itself. Tiny manufacturing variations across surviving gears suggested they had not been produced randomly by different workshops. Instead, the deviations followed consistent patterns that may reflect standardized production techniques. That raised another fascinating possibility. If the mechanism was built using repeatable manufacturing methods, perhaps it was not a one-of-a-kind masterpiece after all. Perhaps it belonged to a small family of similar instruments, all now lost to history. Historians remain cautious about that idea because no second Antikythera mechanism has ever been found. Still, ancient writers occasionally described sophisticated astronomical devices that disappeared long ago. Most scholars believe those references were not fictional. They simply referred to machines that failed to survive 2,000 years of war, recycling, earthquakes, and corrosion. Bronze was too valuable to leave unused. Countless ancient mechanisms were almost certainly melted down centuries ago. The Antikythera device may have survived only because the ship carrying it sank before anyone could recover its valuable metal. Ironically, the very disaster that destroyed the vessel may have preserved one of humanity's greatest technological achievements. Today, no reputable archaeologist argues that the mechanism proves the existence of aliens, a lost supercivilization, or impossible technology. The real story is both more grounded and, in many ways, even more extraordinary. It demonstrates that ancient engineers were capable of mathematical and mechanical achievements far beyond what 19th century historians once believed possible. Artificial intelligence has not rewritten history. Instead, it has helped researchers notice relationships hidden inside evidence that had been sitting in museums for generations. The gears themselves never changed. The inscriptions never changed. The measurements never changed. Only our ability to recognize patterns improved. That may be the most important lesson of all. Sometimes history doesn't reveal new secrets because we discovered new artifacts. Sometimes it reveals them because we finally learn how to ask better questions about the artifacts we already have. And if a corroded bronze mechanism recovered from the bottom of the Mediterranean can still surprise scientists more than a century after its discovery, it raises an exciting possibility. How many other ancient mysteries are waiting inside museum collections around the world? Not hidden by stone or sand, but hidden inside data that no human has yet learned to connect.